So this is Baruch Fleischman here. Let me turn the page and get back to it again. Originally, we're going to be reading a sefer called Tales and Praise of the ARI. Now, this is a translation which was originally done on another sefer, which is called the Shvachi Arizal, Masa Nisim and Masa Nisim, different miracles that the ARI did. Now, this is Tales and Praise of the ARI. That's how it's translated. It's put together by Aaron Klein and generally Malkovitz Klein. It came for 1970, and it has drawings here by Moshe Raviv. So let's take a look at it, and let's see the stories. Now, the thing I want to say about their other Sfarim that I've been involved in, specifically a sefer called Siach Yitzchak, which actually is... the Kabbalists really hold by a lot of the things that are said here, although the book itself is presented in kind of like a children's sort of way, but the stories within them have great depth to them. Let's come over here and let's give a start here, and let's see what happens in Tales and Praise of the ARI. There once lived in Israel a man, the glorious land, and his name was Rabbi Solomon of blessed memory. So this man was a wholehearted and upright and God-fearing man, and one who shunned evil. Now it came to pass one day, as he was in the synagogue, he was studying by himself, that Elijah the prophet, let me just bring this back into position, we could see it a little, may he be remembered for good, appeared to him saying, "Know that I am a messenger of God, and I come to bring you tidings that your wife will conceive and bear you a son, and you shall call his name Isaac, Yitzchak in Hebrew. And he will set about to deliver Israel from evil spirits, and through him many souls now in a transformed state will be brought to their perfection. He will reveal the hidden mysteries of the Torah and the meanings of the Zohar, and his fame will go forth throughout the world. Therefore, take special heed that you do not circumcise him until I myself come and be the child's godfather." So and it came to pass that when he finished speaking, he just disappeared. And Rabbi Solomon remained all that day in the synagogue, weeping and praying to God. And thus he spoke, he said this to Hashem: "Master of the universe, Ribbonu Shalom, fulfill the good tidings that you have brought me. And though I am not worthy, do it for your sake and not for mine. And do not let my sins cause these good tidings to be of no effect." That night he went home, but he did not reveal this matter even to his wife. Now Solomon knew his wife that night, and she conceived and bore a son, and the whole house was filled with light. And the man rejoiced in his offspring. Now he had this wonderful child. On the 8th day he brought him to the synagogue to be circumcised according to the custom. That the father looked around all the four corners of the synagogue to see whether Elijah of blessed memory had come, as he had said he would, but he didn't see him. And all who were present urged him, saying, "Come, take your son and circumcise us." I mean, it's time. We've been here all day long, and we're waiting for something to happen. All of his relatives, and so he answered. He said, "Right, well, all of my relatives haven't come yet." When about an hour had passed and Elijah had not appeared, the father thought in the bitterness of his soul, "If Elijah has not appeared, it could only be because of my sins." And even as he wept, behold, Elijah appeared to him, saying, "Refrain from crying, servant of God. Approach the altar and prepare your sacrifice." Now, that's what Elijah said. "Take my seat and I myself will circumcise the child, for I did but tarry." So let me read this again. He says, "Take my seat, and I myself will circumcise the child. For I did but tarry," in other words, I only delayed, "to know whether you would keep my commandments and listen to me." Then Elijah took the child from the woman. Now, it doesn't say where the woman was, but I guess it must be the mother, and circumcised him. but no one saw him save the father. In other words, he wasn't seen. This was not seen by anybody except the father. And as soon as the child arrived home, he was healed, as though he had been circumcised many years before. The child grew and was weaned and was brought to school, and at once learned more than any child of his age. At 5, he studied the Bible and the Mishnah. At 8, he was learning the Talmud and penetrating diligent. In other words, getting tremendously deep. At this time, the father died. After the days of mourning, his mother said to him, "You surely are aware that I am now a widow, and am unable to buy books for you as you need it. Therefore, I pray that you listen to me. Let us arise and go to your uncle in Egypt. There you will lack for nothing." And Isaac said, "Here I am." In other words, I'm ready. Then they rose and went down to Egypt, where his uncle welcomed him warmly and urged Rabbi Bezalel Ashkenazi to accept him as a pupil. So just a little word on the side, that in this Sefer Siach Yitzchak, he says that the language that the people spoke at that time was Spanish. Well, it was basically Ladino. They spoke in Ladino amongst each other. So the conversation that you had there with the people waiting for him, when is the bris going to take place, and whatever, all of this took place in the language of Ladino. So he said Rabbi Bezalel Ashkenazi to accept him as a pupil. Now the other thing is that what's so interesting is this is 2 generations after the expulsion from Spain. The expulsion from Spain was 1492. Most people went to Portugal. Terrible things happened there. And some escaped, but others went to the Turkish world, to the east. And there you had a large influx of wealthier or educated Spanish Jews. And here we are now. But the thing which was interesting about this is all his mother is obviously Sephardi, because her brother lived in Egypt. But the father, this Rabbi Solomon that we're talking about here, was Ashkenaz. So the ARI is actually Ashkenaz. But nonetheless, he lived in the world of the Sephardim and was educated there. So it came to pass that he taught him and found him clear in understanding. After 2 years, his knowledge surpassed that of all the rabbis of Egypt, and no scholar could equal him in the force of his discussion. His uncle then gave him his daughter in marriage, and who showed him great honor and gave him a rich dowry. This is Baruch Fleischman. This has been the first story on the praises, tales of the ARI Kodesh.